if you really just begin to become more aware of the way our mind functions and how the mind itself is like a chaotic infant, like a child that just keeps on crying and doesn't shut up, right? The mind is essentially the same way. The egos, which is plural, or which we have many selves, many aspects of this false sense of self that we really see through the lens of in our life circumstances and situations ultimately. But the ego itself, it's the cosmic illusion. It's the grand illusion. It really filters our perception of truth, of objectivity, of what really truly exists beyond all of the perceptions, all the preconceptions, the judgments, the beliefs, the identifications, so on and so forth. Also commonly known as enlightenment. It's such a common and overused word, and a lot of misunderstandings and misinterpretations of the word, in my opinion. But enlightenment is just true objectivity of reality. It's like a complete blank canvas, ultimately. And this complete blank canvas is really optimal in terms of just having a greater sense of well-being and peace within. But the ego plays tricks on you, because if one hasn't never experienced something outside of their false sense of self, their programming, right, their personal algorithm, then how are they going to know something that exists completely absent of that? Because ultimately our reality is constructed by these sort of programs that we have within ourselves. And this is what runs our daily life. This is composed of our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our actions, and so on and so forth. And this is how we perceive our life. And so to really beat the ego at its own particular game, you've got to understand how it operates, how it functions. And the best way to do this is to be able to create a space, so you have the programming, you have the function of the ego, but then you also have awareness, consciousness. This is what breaks down the ego, the constructs. Because only in awareness, only in consciousness can you begin to see the way the ego functions. Now, I know there's a lot of like new age concepts of what ego is, and I think there's a lot of valid opinions, but ultimately the ego is suffering. The ego is karma. It's our own particular individual karma. It's our own individual particular life situations and circumstances that we find ourselves in. A lot of people just see the ego as this one singular entity, and although that can be true as sort of on a macro level, but a micro level, we've got to understand that really, esoterically, we have thousands of egos, tens of thousands of egos. And the best way to see and recognize this is, have you ever been in a situation where you have this desire, I want to eat some chocolate, just as an example, and this other desire arises, almost like nudging it out of the way, say, no, I want to watch this television show, or I want to watch this TV movie or movie. And then another one will come in and be like, I want to eat some chips. Just as an example, it's so true. But if we never put ourselves in the position of control, and what control is awareness, then we'll never see the ego in the act. And the best way to recognize this is through particular thoughts, feelings, and emotions. This is the ego in its act. And so it's important to always cultivate a practice, meditation, ultimately, and I have a bit of a different spin on meditation. I think meditation should be from moment to moment, from instant to instant, meaning that we are always observing ourselves, we are always present to the moment, and this will only strengthen your sit-down practice. So when you're seated, you're doing 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long that you meditate, you'll find that it becomes easier and the noise will be less and less, because you are also bringing that practice, that however long of a practice, into the rest of your life and the rest of your activity in your day. And this will only strengthen your ability to be more conscious and aware. And that little marginal space, it starts out very like a tiny crack in a wall, or like a door crack, it will open. It'll be fully open after weeks, months, and years of practice, because it just becomes your natural way of operating and being. And it's such an empowered state to no longer be as influenced by your thoughts, your identifications, your emotions, aka the legion of egos that we have within ourselves that govern our human machine. And then you're able to take your own power back and begin to self-transform. Begin to see yourself objectively as who you truly are. And this is such an empowered place to be at. And this is where I'm sort of at with my practice, is being as present and aware as I possibly can throughout the entirety of my day. And I'll be honest, it's tough, because sometimes I'll fall into fantasy, because that's the ego, right? Fall into some sort of illusion, right? Where you get caught off into certain thought loops, or feelings or emotions take you astray from the present moment. And what's important to recognize and realize is that this is normal. This is how we've operated our whole life. But in order to rise to newer heights, to ascend, we've got to ultimately take our power back and become more aware and conscious in our day-to-day life. And then the tricks of the ego no longer have such a stronghold on us. We begin to slowly take our power back over time. So this is all I have for you guys in today's video. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it. Be sure to drop a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video. And with that being said, we'll speak soon.